Hey everyone, Tony D and little Joan here, who won't sit in her seat. And I'm going to do a hot take on Antifa, a little bit of an update. So, Antifa really hasn't stopped, and it's really Antifa and BLM. I mean, they're pretty much, the line between them continues to grow fainter and fainter. Um, yes, Joan, I'm petting you. I'm petting you, okay? I'm petting you. I'm petting you. My God, I'm petting you. Um, Andy No continues to track it. This is Richmond. These pictures over. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is DC. And the new thing is you've got BLM going into neighborhoods, screaming at people who are in gentrified. They consider gentrified neighborhoods, saying, "Give your homes to black people," because black people used to live there. I mean, this is where we're at with these nuts. I mean, it's just nuts. It's absolutely insane to shout that at a person. You're going to go back in time and say, well, black people used to live here, therefore you have to give up your home. Do you expect anyone to treat that seriously? I don't think you do. I think it's just more nonsense to scream at people. Um, they are also marching through the streets. Let's see if I can find that clip. They scream at horrible things at cops. Oh yeah, here's the clip. Listen to what they're shouting. This is from Andy. That's in Seattle. Who do we protect? Black criminals. This was a street protest to support the looting in Chicago. Um, so this is what these extreme leftists want. They want looting. They see it as they want everything. What they want is to again destabilize the state, gain power, drive out the cops, as they have in Minneapolis. Oh, Joan, you're killing me. Here, go away. Just go somewhere. They're driving out the cops. Andy even has an interesting thread here. Let's see if I can find it. It's pretty far down. It's a thread he got from another. Where the heck is it? It's from another Twitter feed. I can't find it, but it is a popular Antifa, according to Andy, a popular Antifa Twitter feed in which they're talking about. Oh, here it is. This is Dad Bods Rising at Rising Dad, and this is he's talking about the strategy of attrition against the cops. And I'll just read a little bit. This is a tactics thread. A key emergent goal of our nightly clashes with the cops is attrition, exhausting them physically and financially, interfering with their ability to police as usual. Thus, we should force them to use more cops or lose. How? Be more like water. Which is a strategy. It's a solid strategy. I mean, that, a war of attrition against the cops is a solid strategy, except who's the war against? When you say drain them financially, well, where do the cops get their money? Do they get it from the air? No, they get it from you, dummies. Unless everybody in Antifa isn't paying taxes, and I assure you they are, they would go to jail for that. They are essentially bankrupting themselves. Speaking of which, Andy has another so many great tweets here. He's just the best. But there's one from Mayor Ted Wheeler. He's the mayor of Portland. With no relief package coming from D.C., local governments in the Portland region are working together to support Black, Indigenous people of color, and beer virus impacted households with rent assistance up to 3 months. Those in need of assistance should blah, blah, blah. Andy responds, why do you expect relief packages from D.C. to address the consequences and decisions you and others made locally? You can't think beer virus is that big of a deal if you celebrate mass far left protests and attend them yourself. Boom. There it is right there. And you think you're going to get any money out of Trump? What are you, out of your mind? You think you're going to tear up a city and then turn around and ask for the money to fix the city? No. I think even Obama would have turned you down for that. Of course, if Obama had been president, the riots would have been covered differently. Probably would have petered out in a week, but probably would have went down more like Ferguson, right? But because the media and the Democrats are working in concert to exacerbate this as much as possible, this is what we're getting. We're getting, this endless protest because the protests haven't ended. When you heard the news that, well, the federal troops withdrew and everything calmed down, that wasn't true. As Tim Pool has been reporting, the federal their DHS police, Department of Homeland Security, they went back into the federal courthouse, and the state police in Oregon came in and took over policing the streets. Well, now they're leaving because they've had enough. And the DA won't prosecute any of these knuckleheads. They're letting them out. Here's a guy right here, Zachary Greenberg, far-left militant who punched a conservative activist at UC Berkeley last year, has now been arrested. Oh, this is a different thing. Oh, excuse me. For stabbing a person multiple times on the street. That's a different thing. But, well, Andy has reported on multiple people, and they've all been let go or let out with no bail. Whether or not the DA prosecutes them, right now it's not in their political interest to prosecute them. So they're not. They're trying to let everybody go. Because if they start prosecuting them, the riots would start to die down. So, unfortunately, this is why these kids are going to end up in federal prison, because once the DHS cops go back into the street, when they arrest them, they'll be arrested on federal charges. And then they will go to jail. There are people facing 10 years in prison. Now, some of them are back on the streets, still trying to riot. Enjoy it while you can, because you're going to be in jail for 10 years for your statue demolition and attacking the courthouse, attacking federal officers. Those are serious crimes. The crimes that these rioters are being let off on are also serious crimes, but if they were arrested locally, they would get lesser sentences. Sentences that could be commuted somewhat, they'd probably do a couple of months and then be able to go home or start to go back to work or whatever. But the problem, of course, is everybody's out of work. These Democratic governors won't let businesses open properly. They're strangling everything, and they're keeping the pressure on, they think, Trump. But who's really suffering here? The people of Portland, the people of Seattle. The protesters themselves are going to suffer. They're going to suffer the most, because at some point they're going to cease to be a useful political tool of the Democrats, and the Democrats will want them gone. Now, whether they're in power or not, they will go. They will go, because the Democrats, while they might say, when Trump wins re-election, the Democrats might say, well, we're not going to help him anymore, but, don't help Trump get rid of him. Let him suffer under the, make him clean up the mess, in other words. But, Andy's got, these D.C. protesters and Richmond protesters too. I forget where that was. I mean, it's spreading, and they're trying to kind of coordinate with each other, but not directly, sort of thing. But in places like Richmond and D.C., they're not tolerating it. people are getting locked up. Now, those people are going away to, local jails for local crimes. But Portland and Seattle, not only are they destroying their own city, which they live in, they're destroying their own police force, which they call immediately every time they're in trouble. That, okay, you're going to destroy. Look at what's going to happen to Minneapolis. I mean, Minneapolis is going to be a wreck. No one's going to want to live there. It's going to completely fall to pieces, and you're going to have, no money, because look, if you're going to replace the police with mental health counselors are professionals. They need degrees. They need to be psychiatrists and psychologists and people who are well versed in that. They can't just be like 2-year, associate's degree people. The people they're going to have to deal with have serious mental issues, and some of them are not going to want to deal with it. What are you going to do about a guy who just wants to kill people? A guy who's just being violent, who just gets drunk every night and goes on a tear? I don't think the counselor's going to be able to help him if he doesn't want to get help. The one thing you'll learn if you watch, say, Intervention on A&E, or and I've watched literally every season of that show. I just find it riveting. But the story's the same every time. Unless the addict hits rock bottom, unless they're willing to participate in their own recovery, they won't recover. They'll kill themselves through taking too much drugs and alcohol or whatever they're taking, or they'll just continue their very dangerous lifestyle until they die. And you're talking about doing this citywide, where a lot of those addicts live in the city, we're close to their sources of drugs and alcohol. And, they're just going to come back and back and back again to use the city's resources. And at some point, the city will just throw up their hands. At some point, a new administration, they're going to try all this crazy stuff in Minneapolis, right? And at some point, all the people who started this mess will be out of office because they're so incompetent and stupid as they think that can work, leaving the next group of people to come in and try to fix what they've built, which won't work either. And as they go further and further left, they're going to be begging the federal government for money. You really think even Biden's going to give you money? Kamala Harris? First off, they're not even going to have the money to give it to you. The country's broke. It was broke before the virus. Things were going well, but we were still in debt. And Trump's spending money like a drunken sailor. Where's the money supposed to come from? And for what? Your stupid city that you let burn to the ground just so you could get a few points against Trump? It's not going to work. The Democrats are going to screw you. They might hand you a couple $100 million. It won't be enough. And they're going to say the same thing they say to everybody. Well, there's not enough money. If only we could raise the taxes, but we can't. Maybe in Biden's second term. Have you not seen this movie before? So, Antifa. If you're in Antifa, get out. It's another video here. Oh, man, so many great ones. Cops walking through the Chaz as locals just say horrible things to them. They just hate the cops there. They hate them until the cops, until you need a cop to save your butt. Here it is again. F your peace policing. Let's be angry. Okay. It's coming to an end in November. Enjoy it while it lasts, Antifa and BLM, because by this time next year, no one will remember who or what you were.